What's up, y'all? This is Weezy. If you enjoy this content, please remember to rate and review. Ever since getting banned on Google, it has been a true headache to get back up and rolling. So please share with like-minded friends, rate and review, and enjoy the show. Can't thank y'all enough. Much love. Alright, what's up, y'all? Welcome to Weezy's Weekend Wind-Up. Thank you guys for making it out. Hope everyone is having a lovely Saturday. Sending love from sunny-ass Florida to wherever you may find yourself. What's up, Secret Squirrel? DJ Massey. The lovely Miss Hev, how are ya? What else we got up in here? What's up, Alex? Marion G of Cheese. Yeah, thank you guys for making it out. What's up, Soulway 21 and such. And oh, Kelly. What's up, Kelly? There you are. All right. Hopefully I didn't miss anyone. If you are listening to this in a channel other than the Daddygate Podcast channel, and this is a re-upload, and you want to catch the live show, hit the Daddygate Podcast YouTube channel. That's where we do these shows live. And hop in the live chat, make some friends, get a shout out, and have a good time. It's always a good time. And even if you don't agree with some of the opinions I express, you are more than welcome to share them. It is absolute freedom of speech. And I try to go over news articles that you may or may have not heard and give a little bit of opinion. So that's how we do the show. Let's get the show on the road. As you can see in the thumbnail, we have the Dalai Lama causing some nasty tongue drama. And if you've been under a rock, we're definitely going to go over it. But let's see. So the Dalai Lama, apparently this video came out. It's been out for a few months now. And it, I guess, didn't get traction until really this week. It started going viral, where this kid comes up to the Dalai Lama to give him a hug. Dalai Lama says, give him a kiss here. Kid gives him a kiss there, and then he goes, now suck my tongue. Extremely creepy, disturbing. And I will admit, I was somewhat ignorant to this man. I feel like I'm pretty well versed when it comes to Abrahamic religions, whether it's Islam, Christianity, Judaism, but Buddhism is one that I will admit I was rather ignorant. I had this thing that, this guy's a man of peace, good guy. And now that this whole scandal has come out, it's definitely made me look into this guy in a whole different light. But it doesn't surprise me. Unfortunately, especially in the conspiracy, it seems like we are all aware that Hollywood is full of this nonsense. Hollywood, liberal Hollywood, scandals with kids and abuse of kids. Sometimes people forget that these things happen in religious areas as well. This is a great example of it. And I hope there aren't Christians listening to this saying, oh, yeah, of course, it's Buddhism. Stop it. This shit happens in Christianity as well. I can bring up the Catholic Church, evangelical pastors abusing their kids. This shit happens everywhere. And if you've been following me for quite some time, I don't care if it's left, right, religious, non-religious. If it's bullshit, it needs to be called out. So there is no exceptions. And the troubling thing is, when looking up articles for the Dalai Lama, I saw several articles saying people defending this odd behavior by this Buddhist monk. Let's read this apology spin by NBC News. Who wrote this article? By Reuters. All right. Dalai Lama unfairly labeled over tongue video, Tibet's government in exile says. And a lot of these articles, this is how. All right. Pempa censoring the Sikong that really hurt the sentiment of all his followers. This is disgusting backpedaling, in my opinion. The 87-year-old's innocent, grandfatherly, affectionate demeanor shown in the footage was misinterpreted, Etsarine told reporters in New Delhi, adding that a life of celibacy and spiritual practice had taken the Dalai Lama beyond the sensorial pleasures. The video clip, filmed in February and circulated this month, has been viewed over 1 million times on Twitter. Etsarine said the investigation showed pro-Chinese sources were involved in making it go viral, adding that the political angle of this incident cannot be ignored. I'll give my opinions after I read this nonsense. Officials of the Chinese embassy in New Delhi were not immediately available for comment. The Dalai Lama fled to India in 1959 after a failed uprising against the Chinese rule in Tibet. China's military marched in and took control in 1951. He has worked for decades to draw global support for linguistic and cultural autonomy in his remote mountainous homeland situated between China and India. Beijing has accused him of fomenting separatism, and it does not recognize Tibet's government in exile, which represents about 100,000 Tibetans living around 30 countries. Now, check this out. This article is saying that this is Chinese propaganda that helped it go viral. The MF asked a little kid in front of cameras to suck his tongue. I don't need any other goddamn context. I mean, that is beyond wrong. And the fact that he did it in front of cameras is repulsive. You have to wonder what he has done when the cameras aren't rolling and in the privacy of his confidants. He's taking pictures with the Clintons, the royals, all these other scummy ass peoples. So it's more of the same. It doesn't matter if you're on politics or religious or Hollywood or any of that shit. This is reprehensible behavior, and for this news outlet to try to spin it as Chinese propaganda when we all could see with our own eyes what had transpired. No normal person, I don't give a shit about the customs or anything, is going to ask a little boy to suck your tongue. It's reprehensible, and there is no justifications for it. I don't care. If you disagree with me, fight me. Moving on. This is another somewhat religious article, but in this instant, the FBI apparently was wiretapping a Catholic church. This is an article from the Desert News. That is a Utah newspaper. I remember it well when I used to live in Utah. Republican House Judiciary Committee leaders say they have information suggesting the Federal Bureau of Investigation, aka the FBI, utilized an undercover agent in a Catholic parish to inform on the clergy and congregants. In a letter sent to FBI Director Christopher Wray subpoenaing the Bureau for information on their agents' activities, Committee Chairman Jim Jordan, Republican of Ohio, said he wants to look into the FBI's plan to expand its clandestine network into churches to reportedly combat domestic violent extremism, and what effects the FBI's program might have on protected First Amendment activity. In a tweet, Jordan called the FBI's action chilling. Based on the limited information produced by the FBI to the committee, we now know that the FBI relied on at least one undercover agent to produce its analysis, and that the FBI proposed that its agents engage in outreach to Catholic parishes to develop sources among the clergy and church leadership to inform on Americans practicing their faith, Jordan said. There is a picture of the tweet. A press release from the committee says the FBI has not responded to multiple requests for information starting in February. Jordan said he views the information as vital for Congress to conduct proper oversight, as it is responsibility under the Constitution. In his letter, Jordan said the FBI program is related to a document from the Richmond field office titled Interest of Racially or Ethnically Motivated Violent Extremists in Radical Traditionalist Catholic Ideology almost certainly presents new mitigation opportunities. Jordan said the FBI document suggested designating some Catholic Americans based on their differing theological beliefs as domestic terrorists. It then urged agents to recruit sources within mainline Catholic parishes to inform on these other groups. Jordan said the documents the committee has seen from the FBI reveal the purpose of the program is to familiarize congregations to warning signs of radicalization and enlist their assistance to serve as suspicious activity tripwires. The House GOP letter warned that this could be a violation of Americans' First Amendment rights. Americans must be free to exercise their fundamental First Amendment rights without worrying that the FBI may have planted so-called tripwire sources or other informants in their houses of worship, Jordan said. Jordan said that after the request to the FBI to voluntarily hand over the information were disregarded, he found it necessary to use congressional subpoena power to compel the release of the information. So there you have it. The FBI is apparently spying on stuff that's happening in Catholic churches. Where was the FBI when all this abuse of kids was going on in Catholic churches? That's what I wants to know. Weird stuff nonetheless, and people that have looked into COINTELPRO, an FBI program from the 1960s, in which they were spying on the Black Panthers, on Malcolm X, the Nation of Islam. They were spying on them, and they had their hands in MLK's death and in Malcolm X, as well as many others. So when people want to tell me that this stuff doesn't happen anymore, this is why I read the article right now. It continues to happen. It happened in the 60s. And here we have an article from 2023 where the FBI is still spying on stuff such as Catholic churches. So just bringing up this article, that's the main reason why I brought it up. It's still going on. It hasn't gone away. And so anyone thinking that this stopped decades ago, read this article and you are naive as hell. All right. The voices for the Assange release, I have noticed, are starting to get a little bit louder, which is rather encouraging. Assange, I did an article or a podcast, and I'm going to get Misty on again in the near future to go over the latest on Assange. He's facing 175 years in prison for speaking the truth. There's no other way to put it. People on the left, people on the right. Mike Pompeo was caught out trying to plot an assassination attempt on Assange. People on the left want to get rid of him because of the leaked Hillary Clinton. So it's people on the left, people on the right. All these people, presidents, whether it's Obama, Trump, all these guys had their opportunity to pardon him, and none of them did a goddamn thing. It shows you that these are all puppets. Assange is facing 175 years for simply telling the truth, doing true journalism. And many people on the left and the right, they don't talk about Assange. Recently, a reporter was captured in Russia, and you hear all these hypocrites talking about how Russia needs to release this. This is a shot on journalism, but they don't say nothing when it comes to Julian Assange. They are hypocrites, each and every one of them. Surprisingly, even AOC, I disagree with a lot of what she says. She's a radical. But if you listen to me, I'll give credit to people on both sides when they do good things. And her and some of her loudmouth friends have actually spoken up and demanded that the stuff on Assange be dropped. Earlier in the week, this is an article from expressandstar.com from the UK news, and parliamentarians right to ask the U.S. to drop extradition proceedings against Assange. Labour MP Richard Burgon organized the letter, which has been given the support of MPs and members of the House of Lords from 6 parties. A letter to U.S. Attorney General has been signed by 35 parliamentarians calling for extradition proceedings to be dropped against Julian Assange on the 4th anniversary of his detention at Belmarsh Prison. Richard Burgon, I hope I'm saying that right, Labour MP for Leeds East, organized a letter which has been given the support of MPs and members of the House of Lords from 6 parties. They call on Merrick Garland to drop the proceedings, which date back to former U.S. President Donald Trump's administration, and it is claimed relate to Assange's role as a journalist and publisher in publishing evidence of war crimes, corruption, and human rights abuses. Assange is being held on remand as he challenges the High Court's ruling that he should be extradited to the U.S. to face trial after leaking military documents. Any extradition would, in effect, be putting press freedom on trial. It would set a dangerous precedent to journalists and publishers around the world. 4 years on since Julian Assange was first detained in Belmarsh High Security Prison, now is the right moment to draw a line under this outrageous prosecution initiated by the Trump administration, drop the charges against Julian Assange, and allow him to return home to Australia. Damn straight. Signatories include Conservative MP David Davis, Caroline Lucas of the Green Party, Jeremy Corbyn, Angus MacNeil of the Scottish National Party, and Liz Saville Roberts of Plaid Cymru. Liz Saville. Interesting. I have no idea of any relation she may have or may not have, but that's interesting. The letter says if Mr. Assange were to be extradited to the United States, he faces a prison sentence of up to 175 years for his publishing work, which was carried out in the United Kingdom and in his partnership with globally leading news outlets. This would clearly have a chilling impact on journalism and would set a dangerous precedent for other journalists and media organizations. It would also undermine the U.S.'s reputation on freedom of expression and the rule of law. Damn straight. So, I did see the letter, but I thought this article would have it, but they don't. Yeah, this is an egregious act of misjustice. Someone for whistleblowing on war crimes is being held. And what does the American government say? It's all because of national security. It's the same nonsense. And again, Obama kicked it down the road. Trump followed it up. It's all the same shit. There is no difference. And this is an attack on freedom. It's not just about Julian Assange. It's the fact that this is attack on freedom of speech. You call out stuff for what it is, and you are facing basically a life sentence to rot and die in jail. I'm hoping the calls for this release get louder and louder, where the government has no other option but to give up on it and let him go. It's a travesty what's going on. Moving on. The NPR. I used to be a big fan of NPR. I would listen to them religiously when I and I think part of it was because of how left it was. But I also felt them trying to be center. So I will give them that. They are a left-leaning organization. But they did. I remember them trying to make an effort to try to be fair. So I will give them that. I'm not going to completely shit on them. But they are a left-wing propaganda that's publicly funded. And recently they made an announcement that they were leaving Twitter because they didn't like this brand that they got right here. Government funded media. They didn't like that. They got butthurt. And if you go down their tweets, they are crying, leaving. And some of the comments are pretty funny. Like, this is the most activity NPR has gotten in all their time on Twitter, and it's because they're leaving. And so they're mad. But I've been saying this for a long time. When RT, Russia Today, I believe, is what it's short for, got this label, government-funded media, Russian propaganda in other terms, I was wondering why NPR, the BBC, PBS, why those outlets weren't hit with the same label, because they're American propaganda arms. The BBC, think about the name, and it's not big black. Get your minds out of the gutter, goddammit. It means British Broadcasting Company. You know what I says? And so in the name itself, it's telling you that it's propaganda. But it's funny when people get indoctrinated with reading this media. Oh, well, I saw it on the BBC. It must be news. It's all nonsense. And if you've been following me for quite some time, you guys know there's a lot of people sucking up to Elon. Yeah, Elon Musk is cool and he's savior. This is Captain Microchips. So we can agree to disagree. However, I will acknowledge when he says something that is funny or awesome. And I want to play for you this clip right here where, if you missed it, it's about 4 minutes long. And he is being interviewed by a BBC reporter. And Elon completely and utterly destroys him. Check it out.
I would only just add that, we have spoken to people who have been sacked that used to be in content moderation, and we've spoken to people very recently who were involved in moderation, and they just say there's not enough people to police this stuff, particularly around hate speech in the company. Is that
what hate speech are you talking about? I mean, you use Twitter,
right?
Do you see a rise in hate speech?
I mean,
but just a personal anecdote. Like, what do you? I don't.
Personally, my for you, I would see I get more of that kind of content. Yeah, personally, but I'm not going to talk to the rest of for the rest of Twitter.
So you see more hate speech personally?
I would say I would see more hateful content in that.
Content you don't like or hateful? What do you mean to describe a hateful thing?
Yeah, I mean, just content that will solicit a reaction, something that may include something that is slightly racist or slightly sexist, those kinds of things.
So you think if something is slightly sexist, it should be banned?
No,
is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm saying.
Well, I'm just curious. I'm trying to understand what you mean by hateful content. And I'm asking for specific examples. And you just said that if something is slightly sexist, that's hateful content. Does that mean that it should be banned?
Well, you've asked me whether my feed, whether it's got less or more. I'd say it's got slightly more.
That's why I'm asking for examples. Can you name one example?
I honestly don't use. Honestly, I
you
don't.
Can't name a single example.
I'll tell you why. Because I don't actually use that for you feed anymore. Because I just don't particularly like it.
But you
said a lot of people are quite similar. I only look at
hang on a second. You said you've seen
following.
more hateful content, but you can't name a single example, not even one.
I'm not sure I've used that feed for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And
then how did you see the hateful content?
Because I've been using Twitter since you've taken it over for the last 6 months.
Okay, so then you must have at some point seen for you hateful content. I'm asking for one example.
Right.
And you can't give a single one.
And I'm saying
I say, sir, that you don't know what you're talking about.
Really?
Yes, because you can't give me a single example of hateful content, not even one tweet, and yet you claimed that the hateful content was high.
Well,
that's false.
No, what I claimed...
You just lied.
What I claimed was there are many organizations that say that kind of information is on the rise. Now, whether it has on my feed or not... I mean, right, and
literally
you can look at something
one.
like the Strategic Dialogue Institute in the UK. They will say that. So
look, people will say all sorts of nonsense. I'm literally asking for a single example, and you can't name one.
Right, and as I already said, I don't use that feed. But
then how would you know that?
I don't think this is getting anywhere.
You literally said you experienced more hateful content, and then couldn't name a single example.
Right, and as I said,
that's absurd.
I haven't actually looked at that feed.
Then how would you know this hateful content?
Because I'm saying that's what I saw a few weeks ago. I can't give you an exact example. Let's move on. We only have a certain amount of time. COVID misinformation. You changed the COVID misinformation.
You got the camera boy treatment right there.
The BBC does not set the rules on Twitter, so I'm asking you.
No, I'm talking about the BBC's misinformation about COVID.
I'm literally asking you about, you changed the labels, the COVID misinformation labels. There used to be a policy, it then disappeared. Why do that?
Well, COVID is no longer an issue. Does the BBC hold itself at all responsible for misinformation regarding masking and side effects of vaccinations? And not reporting on that at all? And what about the fact that the BBC was put under pressure by the British government to change its editorial policy? Are you aware of that?
This is not an interview about the BBC.
Oh, so. You thought it wasn't?
And I see now why you've done Twitter Spaces. I am not a representative of the BBC's editorial policy. I want to make that clear. Let's talk about something else. You want to talk about the BBC?
You too.
All right, let's talk about something else.
You weren't expecting that.
Let's talk about something else.
Get owned, I says. That's freaking awesome. Elon putting him in his place, and the man was squirreling around. Not quite as good as the cameraman moment, but pretty damn good nonetheless. I will definitely tip my hat in respect to Elon right there. Dude had several cricket moments. Asked a simple question. It's hilarious when people ask a simple question. Just answer the simple question. Can't even freaking answer. What is a woman? Simple question, and people's brains melt over the simplest of questions. And yeah, it was great to see, even though I don't trust Elon, as I've already stated, it was great to see him being this reporter being called out for his lies. And so this is a representative of the news organizations that we are supposed to trust and take at their word. This was a great representation as to why I don't ascribe to these mainstream rags. and I just read them to stay in the loop of things, but you have to take with a grain of salt. That is my stance on it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you missed it, let's go to a government-funded article that I thought was a bombshell one, that I saw some people tweeting it, and I also was alerted that they couldn't see my tweet, that my tweet could not be seen in the UK because of the source. The source is RT. I don't want to read it. That way it doesn't get blocked in the UK, but it's funny. NPR gets mad because they get hit with the label, but when RT got hit with this label, no one gave a shit. It's funny. It's fine when it happens to other people, but when it happens to you, oh my God, it's the end of the world. It's the hypocrisy. But let's read this article. This one is bombshell. Again, it's by RT, written on the 12th of April, 2023. I think many of us that have been following this topic, it was no surprise to us. But for people in the quote-unquote normie world, this is a huge article. Let us read it. Special Service declassified Guantanamo court filing suggests some 9/11 hijackers were CIA agents. God damn, right off the bat. To see this in a mainstream rag is quite the doozy, if I may say. What does the intelligence agency have to do with suicide terror attack? An explosive court filing from the Guantanamo Military Commission, a court considering the cases of defendants accused of carrying out the 9/11 terrorist attacks on New York, has seemingly confirmed the unthinkable. The document was originally published via a Guantanamo Bay court docket, but while public, it was completely redacted. Independent researchers obtained an unexpurgated, God, I probably screwed that up, copy. It is an account by the commission's lead investigator, DEA veteran Don Canistraro, of his personal probe of potential Saudi government involvement in the 9/11 attacks conducted at the request of the defendant's lawyer. Two of the hijackers were being closely monitored by the CIA and may wittingly or not have been recruited by Langley long before they flew planes into the World Trade Center buildings. Allegedly. I'm only saying allegedly. I had Captain Dan, a flight pilot of 35 years, last week on my podcast. If you don't check out my podcast, that is one of the best ones I have done. Listen to it. It was quite an episode. That's why I just finished that sentence by saying allegedly. I can't get into it too much right here on this platform, but if you are interested, listen to episode 128 with Captain Danley, and yeah, that'll blow your mind if you are a normie when it comes to 9/11. The story of two men. Of the great many enduring mysteries of the 9/11 attacks, still unresolved over 2 decades later, perhaps the biggest and gravest relate to the activities of Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Midhar. Hope I said that right. In the 18 months leading up to that fateful day, the pair traveled to the U.S. on multi-entry visas in January 2000, despite having repeatedly been flagged by the CIA and NSA previously as likely Al-Qaeda terrorists. Mere days before their arrival, they attended an Al-Qaeda summit in Kuala Lumpur, during which they... Damn it, sorry, my dog needs a pee again. Always. I swear, every time I do these wind-ups, he's got to pee. All right, where was I? Mere days before their arrival, they attended Al-Qaeda summit in Kuala Lumpur, during which key details of the 9/11 attacks are likely to have been discussed and agreed. The meeting was secretly photographed and videotaped by Malaysian authorities at the direct request of the CIA's Alex Station, a special unit set up to track Osama bin Laden, although oddly, no audio was captured. Yeah, I'll keep my comments to myself. Still, this background should have been sufficient to prevent Hazmi and Midar from entering the US, or at least enough for the FBI to be informed of their presence in the country. As it was, they were admitted for a 6-month period at Los Angeles International Airport without incident. The Bureau representatives with Alex Station were blocked from sharing this information with their superiors by the CIA. We've got to tell the Bureau about this. These guys clearly are bad. One of them, at least, has a multiple entry visa to the US. We've got to tell the FBI. Mark Rossini, a member of the Alex Station, has recalled discussing with his colleagues. But the CIA said to me, no, it's not the FBI's case, not the FBI's jurisdiction. God damn, these mofos look like my uncles. What the hell? Immediately upon arrival, Hazmi and Midar encountered a Saudi national residing in California named Omar Al-Bayoumi in an airport restaurant. Over the next few weeks, or 2 weeks, he helped them find an apartment in San Diego, co-signed their lease, gave them $1,500 towards their rent, and introduced them to Anwar Al-Awlaki, an imam at a local mosque. Al-Awlaki was killed in a U.S. drone strike in Yemen 2011. I think he's been killed like 5 times. I'm not even kidding. Look into that and you'll see what I say is right there. In the wake of 9/11, Bayoumi unsurprisingly became a subject of interest in an FBI probe of potential Saudi involvement in the attacks known as Operation Encore. In a 2003 interview with investigators in Riyadh, he claimed his meeting with Hazmi and Midar was a coincidence. He heard them speaking Arabic, realized they couldn't speak English, and decided to assist them out of charity. Yeah, I don't know about that shit. The Bureau reached out a very different conclusion. Bayoumi was a Saudi intelligence operative and part of a wider militant Wahhabist network in the U.S., which handled a myriad of potential and actual terrorists and monitored the activities of anti-Riyadh dissidents abroad. What's more, Encore judged there to be a 50-50 chance he had advanced knowledge of the 9/11 attacks before they happened, and so did the Saudi government. That is huge right there. Again, if you've been following this for many years, as I have, this isn't a surprise, but to see this written in an article like this is pretty huge. Share this article with your normie friends. I'll put a link in the description if anyone wants to share it. This one's huge. It should be shared. It should be read by anyone interested in the damn truth of what happened that day. Why was it hidden? Those bombshell facts remained hidden from public view until March 2022, when a trove of FBI documents was declassified at the request of the White House. The newly released Guantanamo Military Commission filing sheds even further light on Bayoumi's contact with Hazmi and Midar, and in turn, the CIA's keen interest in them, their activities throughout their stay in the U.S., and refusal to disclose their presence to the FBI until late August 2001. The filing is an account of the Commission's lead investigator, DEA veteran Don Canestraro, of his personal probe of potential Saudi government involvement in the 9/11 attacks, conducted at the request of the defendant's lawyers. Based on a review of classified information held by and interviews with representatives of the FBI and the Pentagon, the content strongly suggests the CIA obstructed official investigations to conceal its penetration of Al-Qaeda. That's the judgment of 4 separate unnamed FBI agents interviewed by Canestrano, who worked on investigations into the 9/11 attacks. The most incendiary charges were leveled by a Bureau agent referred to in his report as CS-23, who had extensive knowledge of counterterrorism and counterintelligence matters. CS-23 recounted how the CIA repeatedly lied and stonewalled the FBI in its investigations into Bayoumi. For example, while agency officials claimed to possess no files on him, when asked by Operation Encore representatives, CS-23 knew for a fact this was a falsehood, and the CIA maintained several operational files on Bayoumi. amounting to an extensive paper trail. Furthermore, CS-23 was certain that the CIA used its liaison relationship with the Saudi intelligence service to attempt to recruit Hazmi and Midar and circumvent laws prohibiting the agency from conducting spying operations on U.S. soil by using Riyadh as a go-between. This account was backed up by another FBI investigator, CS3, who further claims that Bayoumi setting up bank accounts and renting an apartment for the two hijackers in San Diego was done at the behest of the CIA. Any information provided to Bayoumi would be fed back to Alex Station. CS3 felt it odd that the CIA unit situated in the US and staffed by analysts was involved in recruiting Al-Qaeda operatives, as such work is typically the responsibility of case officers trained in covert operations based overseas. CS10 concurred that this arrangement was highly unusual and made it nearly impossible for Alex Station to develop informants inside Al-Qaeda from its base several thousand miles from the countries where Al-Qaeda was suspected of operating. Despite such tantalizing leads, CS-23 claims senior FBI officials suppressed further investigations into the CIA's relationship with Bayoumi and the recruitment of Hazmi and Midar, and Bureau representatives testifying before the Joint Senate Congressional Inquiry to 9/11 were instructed not to reveal the full extent of Saudi involvement with Al-Qaeda. For their part, CS3 stated that before they and their colleagues were interviewed by the Joint Inquiry, CIA officials within Alex Station told them not to cooperate fully with investigators, and they were looking to hang someone for 9/11. Canestraro does not make any conclusions as to why the CIA concealed vital information from the FBI prior to the attacks, which potentially could have prevented their execution, and why the Bureau subsequently played along with the agency's cover-up. Although one answer is provided by the unusual nature of Alex Station's setup, namely that far from infiltrating an Al-Qaeda cell to avert terrorism, the agency was seeking to influence and direct its activities in order to cause terrorism outside standard recruitment channels. Having stumbled upon such a monstrous connivance, the FBI would have known well to leave the entire subject well alone. This article is written by Felix Livshitz. I will definitely post a link to this article so you guys can share it, read it for yourselves. This one is huge. Huge. No question. All right. To the next article. This article is by Forbes. By now, I think many people recognize this this lovely face. And if you are listening in podcast format, it is a picture of Dylan Mulvaney. Anyways, a lot of people have lost their wigs, so to speak, over Dylan being branded as the face of Bud Light. I will make a admission. When I was younger and I started drinking beer, I was a Bud Light enthusiast. That's all I drank. But I haven't drank Bud Light in goddamn many damn years. I've started drinking real man's beer, unholy Triple L Tampa Bay beer. Let me see if I can find a picture of it. But yeah, so I haven't drank Bud Light. It just tastes like piss water, for lack of a better term. But a lot of people, especially that are right-leaning, if you want to say that, drink Bud Light out here in the United States. They enjoy it with their football and such. And recently when this character right here, Dylan Mulvaney, became the face of Bud Light, a lot of people have been mad, throwing away their Bud Light cans. Kid Rock took a machine gun and shot them all, even though he's pictured with another trans person a few years back. It's kind of hilarious, being of the conspiratorial mind of that I have. you always have to wonder when a company self-destructs, like this is any other company, this is like suicide. You're basically killing your base of beer drinkers by doing such a stupid move. And so naturally, I'm like, man, this has to be part of environmental governance, ESG, social governance, environmental social governance, where you get credited for pushing woke, #woke stuff. And in my opinion, this is what had been going on. I didn't have any proof, so I couldn't talk about it too much. But look, it's not just me that was thinking it. Here is a mainstream rag by Forbes, written by John McGowan on, when was it written? April 12th, 2023, on Forbes. Was Bud Light's Dylan Mulvaney decision about ESG? The first tweet I saw this morning was from Florida's Chief Financial Officer, Jimmy Patronis, in which he stated, when companies act stupid, it's probably ESG. Good point. CC at Budweiser USA. The tweet is in reference to a decision by Budweiser, owned by Anheuser-Busch InBev, to feature transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney on a Bud Light can. Obviously, Patronis is anti-ESG and his tweet is designed to feed the right, but it raises an interesting question. What was the decision to feature Mulvaney? Was the decision to feature Mulvaney driven by ESG, or was it a marketing decision? Environmental, social, and governance, or ESG, is a type of financial investing where factors beyond financial considerations are considered. Companies are scored by fund managers based on varying and undefined factors. Standardization of reporting standards are being developed in Europe, with signs of reporting standards being developed for the United States, but they are not in place yet. In the ESG debate, most focus on the environmental aspect, measuring sustainability programs and environmentally friendly actions taken by a company. However, the social aspect is the real red meat for the right. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI programs, policies which target specific industries, and policies tied to political stances are often factors in ESG. Basically, woke politics is what this is saying. As I noted earlier, fund managers vary on what factors they consider in ESG. Companies vary as well, focusing on what they think may catch eye of a fund manager or help in their broader public perception. Anheuser-Busch InBev's 2022 ESG report outlines their 8 strategic priorities as a company. As is the norm in ESG, half their priorities relate to environmental concerns. Their ethics and transparency priority falls solidly under the often ignored governance piece. Entrepreneurship, smart drinking, and moderation, and DEI generally fit under the social umbrella. One may reasonably assume that the Mulvaney decision would fall under the DEI category. The company touts, we have introduced inclusive benefits such as gender-affirming medical support for transgender colleagues in the US and Canada. While that is directly relating to their employees, it is an indicator of core beliefs. Under DEI, the company also highlights 2 outward-facing initiatives focused on gender equity. First, they highlight Uncomfortable Foods, a program launched by Stella Artois to highlight women's chefs in a stated goal to gender equity in gastronomy. Second, they highlight programs by Michelob Ultra and Busch Light to address gender equity in sports. The Busch Light program is a pledge to sponsor all women drivers in NASCAR. The Michelob Ultra program is geared towards encouraging more women to participate in sports by adding to its roster of women athletes and influencers to increase their visibility. It is the language which leads me to believe that the Mulvaney decision may actually have been about ESG. If they decided to include raising awareness of transgender influencers for their 2023 ESG report, Mulvaney fits that description. The company also promoted their DEI rating with Bloomberg Gender Equality Index. While the GEI is focused solely on internal policies of a company, the Corporate Equality Index put out by the Human Rights Campaign is 40% based on outward-facing policies, and a company can face an additional 25% penalty for actions which do not support the LGBTQ cause. Bam, right there, baby. It is not unreasonable to assume that Anheuser-Busch InBev is trying to increase their CEI score for a better ESG rating. Ultimately, I have to give you a lawyer answer as to if this decision was about marketing or about ESG. Maybe. The internal decisions of a company are internal, and we only see what they choose to share. The 2023 ESG report will tell us more, but by then, this issue will be long forgotten. Great article by John McGowan, and I completely agree with this. When you see people saying, once you go woke, you go broke, and these companies doing these stupid decisions that just kills you. You have to wonder, why would you do this? This is going to kill your bottom line. But when you are in cahoots with ESG, it makes all the sense in the world why these companies would commit suicide, company suicide, I guess, but again, completely agree with what the author of that article wrote. Now, for your final article, I was invited to the legitbad podcast last night, and I was also on the Shepard and Bellis show earlier this week. I uploaded the Shepard and Bellis on my podcast, the legitbad podcast. You can check it out by finding them on Spotify. And so if you caught those, this may be a rerun of this article, and I apologize for that. But I don't think everyone did, so I want people to laugh. This is a great article here. This is from thesmokinggun.com under the Buster section. Lots of funny articles there. Man, this is April 11th, 2023. Man gives police worst explanation ever for why he has to pleasure himself in public. A Florida man, not me, guys, not me. This is a different Florida man. A Florida man charged with indecent exposure offered cops a bizarre explanation as to why he was pleasuring himself in public. According to court records, officers were dispatched Sunday morning to a Speedway convenience store in Vero Beach after a 9/11 caller advised there was a naked white male screaming at a white female on the side of the road. Upon arriving at the scene, officers encountered Jason Roach, with whom they were already familiar. The 40-year-old Roach, cops reported, had been questioned twice the prior evening in connection with alleged masturbation incidents at an Arby's restaurant and a Wawa convenience store. In both instances, Roach stopped and went on his way, according to a court filing. The third time, however, was not the charm. A witness told police that Roach, seen above, was naked and touching himself in the motion of masturbating while near the Speedway around 6 a.m. An early riser, some may say. When questioned about his activities, Roach reportedly said that he was having issues with his rectum, and in order to get rid of the pain, he has to ejaculate. If Roach offered anything further about his purported maladies, a cop did not include those gory details in the arrest affidavit. Despite that compelling explanation, Roach was arrested for exposure of sexual organs, a misdemeanor. He was booked into the Indian River County Jail, where he is being held on a $50,000 bond. Roach, who was scheduled for a May 2nd arraignment, was previously been convicted of battery, petty theft, violating a protective order, burglary, grand theft, filing false documents, and resisting police. So there you have it, folks. That is one sick puppy. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Let's see here. Let me get my shiznit ready. Again, if you guys really enjoyed that 9/11 article by RT, check my episode 128 with Captain Dan Hanley. One of my better episodes that I have done. Captain has 35 years of flight experience. Truly, truly a great show. Here we go. Okay. And I think you guys will enjoy it, so make sure you guys check it out. For all my live shows, whenever I do my podcast, some of you guys only tune in to these wind-ups, which is fine. But all my real good stuff, my real quality podcast content is on Rockfin. I stream it live. Please join me if you guys are interested. You guys enjoy these shows. These shows are fun, but my real good stuff you guys are missing out on. You can also follow me on your favorite podcast player. My videos are on podcasts on Spotify now, so you can follow me there. Follow me on Apple iTunes as well. Please give me reviews. I've received a couple more reviews since I've been asking for reviews, and they've been 1-star reviews. If you don't like this content, you don't have to go through the trouble to give me a 1-star, you know. Just ignore it, please. But if you haven't already, I mean, we have a couple thousand people that follow the show across all the platforms combined. Please feel free, you know, to leave a review. Unfortunately, people are more compelled when they're triggered or really mad. But if you enjoy the content, it helps me out. I'm not asking for money, just a positive review. That does help a lot. So if you can leave me a review on Apple or on Spotify, wherever, it definitely helps out. Liking, hitting up those like buttons helps out a lot as well. Little things like that help out. And it's just a pain in the ass when you get canceled off the huge platforms. Thank you guys all. What's up, George O'Brien? What's up, Ms. Lemons? Hopefully I didn't miss anyone. Thank you guys for making it out. And next week I have Derek Bros of the Conscience Resistance. He interviewed Tulsi Gabbard. A quick little thing. He's a great independent journalist, does a ton of great work. And I have him next week on Rockfin. So you will not want to check, or you will not want to miss that. He does excellent work. So check out the live show will be on Rockfin. So be sure to follow me there. All right, y'all. Much love, hugs, and kisses.